Hi, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. Today we're diving into a really interesting question, one we hear from learners all the time. Why do I feel like a different person when I speak English?
Yeah, it's such a common feeling. And honestly, I think it surprises a lot of people. They start learning English and suddenly realize they speak more directly, or they laugh differently, or they feel more shy or more confident. And they wonder, is this still me?
It's a big question, isn't it? Because language is deeply tied to how we see ourselves. When you speak your native language, it feels automatic, like second nature. But when you use a different language, especially one you're still learning, everything feels slightly shifted.
And that shift can feel exciting, or a bit disorienting. You might not have all the words you want, so you speak more simply. Or maybe English lets you say things you'd never say in your own language, so you feel bolder, freer.
And sometimes it's not just about the words, it's about the culture that comes with the language. How people express emotions, how they joke, how they show politeness. You're not just learning vocabulary, you're stepping into a whole new way of being.
Exactly. And that's why it's not strange to feel different when you switch languages. Because you're not just changing how you speak, you're changing how you show up. It's like adjusting the lighting in a room. The furniture's the same, but everything feels a bit different.
That's a lovely metaphor. And what's interesting is, for many learners, English becomes a kind of fresh space. They say things more openly. They ask more questions. They are less afraid to make mistakes, because in some way, they feel less judged in English.
Right, and that can be incredibly freeing. But also confusing. You start to ask yourself, which version of me is the real one? The one who's quiet and careful in their native language, or the one who's bold and cheeky in English?
And the answer, really, is both. They are both real. Language doesn't change who you are, it just reveals different parts of you. English might bring out your playful side, while your native language brings out your reflective side.
I love that way of looking at it. Because it stops being a question of which one is more me, and starts becoming, what part of me is showing up right now? And that's such a gentle shift, it makes space for all the versions of you.
And honestly, isn't that what language learning is about anyway? Expanding who you are. Letting yourself stretch into new ways of thinking, speaking, feeling. It's not about replacing your identity. It's about adding to it.
Yes. And it also explains why sometimes people feel more themselves in English than in their first language. Not because English is better, but because it offers them new ways to express things they didn't have words for before.
That's powerful, isn't it? To realize that fluency isn't just about speed or accuracy, it's about freedom. The freedom to show up differently. The freedom to express feelings, opinions, humor, in ways you maybe didn't know how to before.
And that freedom doesn't always come from being advanced. Sometimes it comes from letting go. From not worrying too much about mistakes, and instead focusing on connection. On being honest.
Yeah, and when you start speaking from that place, of openness rather than fear, you notice something. The different person you become when speaking English starts to feel less strange. Less distant. More you.
And you begin to realize, it's not a different person. It's just a different side. One that's always been there, just waiting for the right language, or the right moment, to come forward.
Exactly. It's not about being fake. It's not about acting. It's about allowing yourself to shift depending on the situation, the people, the language. And that's something everyone does, even in their native language.
Totally. I speak differently with my family than I do with colleagues. And differently again when I travel. It's not about being inconsistent. It's about being adaptive. And learning English simply adds another layer to that.
And that adaptability, it's a strength. Not a weakness. It means you're flexible, you're aware, you're able to move between spaces. That's such a valuable skill, not just in language learning, but in life.
And sometimes, the version of you that shows up in English is the version that takes more risks. Maybe because you feel like you're stepping outside your usual self. You feel a bit more anonymous, so you're bolder.
That's so true. I've met people who say they are shy in their native language, but in English, they are suddenly more talkative. Not because they're pretending, but because English gives them a slightly different frame to step into.
And for some people, it's the opposite. They're confident in their own language, but English makes them feel uncertain or small. And that's okay too. It doesn't mean they're not strong, it just means they are in a vulnerable space.
And vulnerability isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's often where growth happens. When you allow yourself to be seen, even when you don't have the perfect words, that's courage.
It really is. And if you're listening right now and thinking, I don't feel like myself when I speak English, maybe ask yourself, what part of me is showing up? And what might this part be trying to say?
That question alone can open up so much understanding. Because maybe the English you is more expressive. Or maybe more cautious. But either way, it's still you. You're not becoming someone else, you're just unfolding differently.
And the more comfortable you get with English, the more all those parts start to blend. Eventually, it doesn't feel like two different people. It just feels like one person, you, speaking through different windows.
That's such a beautiful image. Different windows, same soul. And every language you speak just gives you a new way to share that soul with the world.
And that's why it's okay if your voice sounds a bit different in English. Or if your personality feels slightly shifted. It's all part of this unfolding, this expanding. You're still you, just expressed in another rhythm, another tone.
And what's amazing is, sometimes speaking English helps you discover parts of yourself you didn't even know were there. Like how you handle challenge. Or how patient you are with yourself. Or how brave you've actually been all along.
I think that happens to so many people. They start learning English thinking it's just about language, but along the way, they find confidence, or creativity, or even a sense of independence they hadn't felt before.
It's one of those unexpected gifts, isn't it? You begin with grammar and vocabulary, but somewhere down the line you realize, wait. I'm not just learning how to speak, I'm learning how to be in new ways.
And that feeling, of learning how to be, is something really intimate. It's not just about fluency. It's about identity, and expression, and how language helps us shape both.
Yeah. And once you understand that, it becomes easier to let go of the pressure. The pressure to sound native. The pressure to be perfect. You realize you're not performing, you're discovering.
And discovery takes time. It takes patience. And it takes compassion, especially for yourself. Because becoming more of who you are through another language isn't easy. But it's powerful.
And the beauty of it is, every sentence you say in English, even if it's broken, even if it's hesitant, is part of that unfolding. Part of you stepping into new space, new light, new possibility.
And those moments where you hesitate, or pause to find a word, they don't take away from your identity. If anything, they add to it. They show that you care. That you're thoughtful. That you're trying to be clear, to connect.
Exactly. Those pauses don't mean you're not fluent in who you are. They just mean you're in the middle of shaping something. And that's incredibly human.
I think a lot of people are surprised to discover how deeply emotional language learning is. It's not just cognitive. It's personal. You feel proud, you feel vulnerable, you feel exposed, and sometimes even empowered, all in the same 5-minute conversation.
And when you're speaking in a second language, you often feel things more sharply. Because you're so aware of your words. So when someone understands you, really understands you, it hits differently. It feels like a bigger win.
It really does. And I think that's why some people say they cry more easily in English. Or they get nervous more quickly. Or they feel strangely free when they speak it. It's like your emotions are just closer to the surface.
And that's not weakness. That's awareness. That's presence. That's you, fully engaged in something that matters to you, even if you're not always sure how to say it.
And even if your English feels like a work in progress, that version of you that speaks it, that version is real. It's not just a temporary mode. It's not a mask. It's one of the many ways you exist in the world.
So when you ask, am I a different person when I speak English, maybe the answer is, no, I'm just accessing a different angle of who I am. One that still belongs to me. One that has something honest to say.